Hello to a new episode of Plusers podcast. Actually, the second episode that we record. I'm quite excited about all of this. Today, I brought a very special guest, a very good friend of mine, Joseph Matta. I was asking him to give us an introduction for him. He was very modest. Joseph Matta has been specialized in the psychology of education, studying and practicing both in Lebanon, in European countries, and also in Saudi Arabia. He is also coach, and he's been also being in a very special position that I pretty much like. He's been chief of happiness in one of the companies he was working at. Hello and welcome to Plusers podcast, Joseph.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Jesus. I'm so happy to be with you, and I'm so happy also to see you flourishing across the years.
Thank you, my friend. I think flourishing is much easier when you have friends that help you flourish. It's the same. I'm very happy to see you. We will tell about the story of how we met, and we will be talking about it. First of all, for the audience to understand what we are going to talk about, I met you actually being a trainer in Sweden. It was a very particular project. We will talk more in depth about it. And since we share this field of Erasmus and also being trainers and facilitating projects with people from different backgrounds, I thought it might be very interesting to create a project episode talking about how we can influence people in groups. Many people that might be listening to us are Erasmus Plus professionals, and at some point in their career, for sure, they will need to manage a team. Doesn't matter if it's online or offline, or maybe in social media, maybe in WhatsApp groups, maybe just by phone. They will need to manage groups. And these groups might be very diverse. So we will see different techniques, and we will be talking about different scenarios that we personally had in order to explore and to delve more. Actually, this is a word that it's been very trendy because of ChatGPT, delve. Now we are using it into how we can succeed in this influencing people, managing teams, and achieving the goals that we want to talk. Let's go, get ready. Joseph, you're here. And this is second episode of Plusers podcast. Before jumping into that, I just would like to talk about what is Plusers and what we are doing here. Plusers is a community of Erasmus Plus professionals. If it's the first time that you are listening to us, subscribe. We are creating content, and we have also a private community in which we support Erasmus Plus professionals to succeed in their goals, teaching them, mentoring them, and helping them network with other Erasmus Plus professionals. Once this is said, get ready. Let's go into that. Yusuf, let's
Yes,
start with understanding what are the different things that we need to take into consideration when we face the team. No, we have a new project. I remember when we were in Sweden. That's when we met last first time. You had a 20-25 group group of people from different countries speaking different native languages, different religions, different, like, everything is different from them. How do you manage to organize them, to let them recognize you as a leader, and to reach the goals that you have for that project?
great question, my friend. The first thing that we need to consider is that when you are dealing with people, as if you are dealing with the weather, and the weather is constantly changing. Sometimes it might be catastrophical, referring to what is unfortunately currently happening in Spain, for example. And sometimes it might be sunny, shiny weather. So we need to consider always that people are a mix of experiences, emotions. Sometimes we cannot predict the way they behave in a specific situation. So the first thing to do in terms of ensuring if what I can call team dynamic is to understand the second party. We start by understanding their cultural wheel. You already talked about our training back then in 2019 in Sweden, and we had 25 people from different regions across the globe. It's not easy at all to manage these people or to get in touch with them or build deep connection from the first time. This is not like love from the first sight. It's typically something more practical and difficult to practice on the ground. So the first thing to consider is that these people, they don't look like us, and this is something really normal. This is diversity when it is really practiced on the ground. So we start by considering what we call their cultural wheel. For example, I met Jesus for the first time. I have maybe a basic understanding of Spain, in terms of a country or Spanish people, maybe. I'm a guy, you're a guy, but definitely we come from different culture. Maybe masculinity traits in my country are different than these traits in your country. So we need to start by understanding our cultural weird. Where do you come from? How were you raised? Your educational background, your values, your traditions. And this definitely requires really more time to explore. It's not easy, my friend, from the first time to ask you these questions. We need to create a safe space. We need to get to know each other more and to connect on a deeper level so that you open up and you start with the first step of building a team and is sharing everything that has to do with your culture wheel.
Wow, you tackle many different topics here, like the country. The country is a crucial part, like the culture, because country is usually related to culture. In practice, we are really much more interested into what's a culture, and the gender. That's also a crucial topic, and yeah, like it's actually a challenge, no? If you really want to go into all the levels and all the different variables that you might face when you are facing a group, it might be very complicated. Well, sometimes it's easier if, for instance, I was thinking also about age. Like the mentality that somebody might have will be much different, and it will be much easier to influence somebody that is younger. That's what we believe, not always works, than older. Of course, if you have a group of older people, you might have a different challenge. You were talking about the cultural wheel. I think it's a very interesting tool that we might use. Would you like to explain it to us, and maybe we try to analyze it better and to see how we can apply this kind of knowledge into our programs?
Sure. What I like about the cultural wheel, Jesus, is that it's a tool that we use to create meaningful conversations and not only superficial ones. I do agree that sometimes we have to run superficial conversations like how are you, where do you come from, my name is Joseph, oh Jesus, it's nice, very nice meeting you, which is fair because this is the first step. However, when we have the intention to go deeper, to build meaningful connections, to work on ensuring a better team dynamic at a later stage, whether we were creating a team from scratch, creating a community like the Plussers community, and allow me here, please, to open the brackets and to congratulate you for all the efforts that you've been doing. And I could feel how much you need support in this matter because you're dealing with people, Erasmus Plus practitioners, professionals, ambitious trainers that they want to create change, they want to manage, they want also to progress within their professional journey. The cultural wheel is all about asking the right question in the right place at the right moment. For example, if I want to understand the values or the beliefs that you, Jesus, live by, okay, or that you think or that you consider as a top priority, I need to pick the right moment so that you open up and share with me, or else I need to wait for a right incident to happen, and maybe a specific training session, maybe within a group discussion during a certain training. And this, by the way, happened with us during a certain activity back then in the training. We opened up because we had a set of questions to deal with, and then at a certain point of our progressive conversation, we felt really comfortable that now I can talk about my values, about my belief systems, because I know that Jesus will not judge me. And I know that even if we both come from Mediterranean countries, there are some differences that we actually cherish. So the culture wheel is all about asking the right questions, Jesus, about your values, your beliefs, your traditions, your rituals, but most importantly is showing interest while you are answering. If you share with me, for example, and correct me if I'm wrong, like the tomato festival that you guys have in Spain, I think I saw it from the social. I need to understand that maybe this festival has something useful or has a meaning for people, whereby maybe I'm someone who's into the environment and I will tell you, oh my God, you are wasting tons of tomatoes. So I will cut the conversation and I might be disrespecting a celebration that has that has a meaning for you guys and that you inherited from your ancestors. So I need to be very clear. I need to be very smart in terms of what we call putting the right key at the right place. We call them the cultural keys, my friend. And these cultural keys started by being aware that you are different than me, Number two is that acknowledging that sometimes we might have some cultural shock, which is extremely normal. A joke in my country could be unfortunately an insult in your country. So once I'm sure that Jesus is ready to listen to me and I'm ready to listen to him and to ask the right questions, this is where you drop the culture wheel and this is where you can consider it as an effective tool. If you're not ready, I don't advise anyone to use it. To look for it, you can simply look for it on Google, a set of questions and the wheel. It's called the wheel. So you need to juggle it or to run it. So that's it for the moment.
Okay. I mean, I think at least when we are going in 101, it's very, very, very interesting to understand this wheel because the depth of the connection might be exponentially much better, no? Like you can really understand somebody. And of course, if you want to create new connections with people, this is something that we will need to be learning constantly because culture is an super vast ocean. Like there is a lot of knowledge to learn, no? I don't know, I have experience, for example, to deal with Arab people, Mediterraneans, Europeans, but then I remember this year I went to Uganda, okay, and I was in a lost country. I was in the countryside in a lost village in the middle of Uganda, and it was like, okay, yes, these people, they speak English, but I see a huge barrier, and the barrier was cultural. So it was difficult. At the end, I managed to create some connections there with some people because I was ruling exactly what you did. I was started talking about more values, trying to go in depth, and actually we develop a project. It's a set of projects within uPlanet that are about to understand that, no, like understand the pyramid of how actions are led by emotions and feelings, but emotions and feelings are led by values and beliefs. So if we understand the values and beliefs of somebody, we will connect with much greater quality. What I want to ask you is like, okay, this is really interesting in a one-on-one. The point is when we face a group, I think it's quite interesting to, at least at the beginnings of the earliest stage of having a group, to create this feeling of identity and then try to make dynamics. We can maybe talk about this, about what kind of dynamics can we recommend to somebody to make these deeper parts of each other emerge and make people try to connect in a much deeper and meaningful way. What would you recommend to anybody who is starting a project? How can you make people have these better connections and let these cultural differences arise?
To anyone who is starting a team, who's creating a project from scratch, and who is recruiting team members, this is your number one responsibility and is to understand your team members first. The first step is to understand that any team will go through different stages so that you can reach the dream team. And this is a cliche expression that we use, but really, there are people who are very passionate and happy to be surrounded by team members because they have reached this stage. So the first stage, which you will be going through, is the forming stage. In the forming stage, you will be grouping people from different backgrounds, as mentioned before, and then you want them to start working together. And this is the number one mistake that we usually do. We consider and we take things for granted as if all of these team members are doing good in terms of communicating, they get alike with each other, and this is not the case. We need to consider again the cultural wear and the differences. Because if we didn't do this, so many clashes will start to happen, and we call it the storming phase within a team. And you, as a leader, will have so much trouble dealing with these people. And you will, instead of leading the project, you will lead coaching conversations and counseling conversations and even more conflict resolution conversation. I have to ask you a question. Recall a moment or recall an incident where you, Jesus, were part of a team and answer me clearly. Did you guys had few exercises that allowed you to connect with each other on a deeper level? Or you only had, for example, a superficial meeting, maybe having lunch together and then let's start working?
That's a good question. I mean, I think I am very fortunate. Well, I'll give you two examples. For instance, in uPlanet, I think I am very fortunate because we have this culture of getting to know each other, and the founders, we are friends from before. So we already got these connections, which helps a lot. And I think this is also a trend that you could see in many startups, for instance, in the US, in many companies, that two friends with similar values, with similar like-minded, like-minded, they start creating something and it works because they manage to create a good team and they work. But yeah, then I had other experiences in which it was like, hey, yeah, this is somebody you are going to work with, start working. And it was like, man, I mean, how am I going to work with you if I don't know if I can trust you, you know? This is something that is always happening at some point, no? The guy next to you is trustworthy or not, because when we are not risking anything, there is no risk, there is no problem. Okay, it's chill, he okay, it's good, we can go for party with whoever. But at some point you can start risking things, the result of a project,
Mhm.
in which you are either gonna get money or either gonna go public, or I don't know, like there is something on the risk that you are really tensed about it. You're risking something. Really need to get to know the people next to you. So I'd say that when you get to know and you have a deeper connection, most of the times the results are exponentially much better. And I'm worried that, right now reflecting and trying to bring back to Erasmus. When you create a project like a youth exchange, I see that there is a huge difference if you work very hard in the beginning phase to have good connections among members, to create a safe space for them to connect naturally. If you also manage to set the limits in which they see that you are available, but you are also an authority that need to still lead the project and manage the ship to get into the harbor that you want to get. There is a huge difference if you really pay attention, care, love, and energy into that, and if you don't do it. Because some people, and if somebody listens to this and they've been in Erasmus Plus Youth Exchange, they will know what I'm talking about. If you've been in a project that you create deeper relationships, you will never forget that project. But there are also other projects I've been, and it's like I don't remember anything about that because I went there, they said, yeah, do something, and we didn't connect with each other. It was just like kind of holidays, and this is something that
Mhm.
people are very critical, and I'm also very critical about Erasmus with that because there is no quality in some projects.
So we need to have a
Mm,
proactive
hmm.
approach, my friend.
Yeah,
Whether you are
how do we do
organizing,
that? Yeah.
whether you're organizing a project, leading a project, or maybe delivering a training as part of an Erasmus Plus project, the first session that you have to do is the session that is related to getting to know your team and connecting with them on a deeper level, and not only getting to know the project and the agenda. And this is a common mistake that we all do. So we start by welcoming the team members. We're very happy to have you, whether as a member within the team or as an attendee or a trainee with us in a typical Erasmus Plus project. We're very excited to have you with us. This is the agenda. Now go prepare everything related to the logistics and let's see you after the break. And that's it. No, the first thing that we need to do is also to understand their what we call them their communication behavioral style. You earlier mentioned the notion of trust. How can I trust my team member? So two axes. How can I trust the one that I am working with, and how can I trust these participants that we recruited or they were referral, who were referral by someone? So we have what we call the communication behavioral style, and it is a tool that I can also send it to you. You really know me, my friend. I don't only like to talk on a theoretical level. I'm really more practical person. So this tool, it's a self-assessment that you can distribute earlier at the first stage of forming your team so that you can understand the four types of behavioral communication style. And these four types are the amiable, the expressive, the analytical, and the driver. You mentioned that you have a good experience because you were referred by a team of friends, and you had unfortunately an unpleasing experience because you were not able to trust your friend. But there's a very famous say that called business is business. Even if I'm your friend Jesus, when we are going to work together, we will discover so many differences. And the first one is that everyone has their own style of working, and everyone has their own style of communication. For example, you as a leader, your style of communication, definitely after performing the assessment, may be that you're the driver, someone who is into project management, team management, into achieving goals and setting deadlines. Someone else may be executor, may be more analytical. They will tell you, please, Jesus, whenever you are going to talk to me, share with me data, Excel sheets, share with me articles. I don't function only by sharing with me stories. Amiable people, for example, they are very kind. They like stories. They prefer to sit with you over a cup of tea, for example, and then they will have everything they want. Expressive people, they want you to tell them. For example, someone who is expressive within your team members, they always look for appreciation from you. They want to hear this. They want to hear you, Jesus, telling them, "I'm so happy to have you within my team. I'm really happy to have been working with you." Or whether it was a trainee who is or she is expressive, they want you always to praise their effort. Very nice job, great. So you need to understand these dynamics. You need to understand that people have different style of communication, and this is a way for you to win them from the start. From the start, if you know how to communicate with people, then you know how to lead the project and you know how to get whatever you want from them at a later stage.
I'm thinking about how to move this not only with your coworkers and with your team, but also with your participants, because of course your participants also communicate using these different types, and you need to work on that. That's why I think that a good trainer and a good facilitator needs to have like 20 ears and 20 eyes, because you need to be very, very, very careful about everything that you see, way of communication, everything that they do, how they communicate with each other. Is a huge challenge if you really want to do it well. And I think that's the difference between being a normal trainer and a good one. If you how much attention and how much you care for these the small details. Now we're also talking about it, and I'm thinking that I was thinking for some time to create the different types of profiles of participants, no? Because you always have different types of profiles, not dividing them by their communication style, but more by their behavioral style. No, you always have somebody who wants to be a leader within a team, and somebody, for instance, who is very shy and sitting just right there, and you need to almost pull this person all the time, like, hey, do you want to take part of this activity? Hey, how are you going to do this? No, and if you understand the two things that we've been talking in this so far in this episode, or one of them like the cultural will and the other one the way of communication, it will be much, much, much useful, and not useful, but you will succeed into integrate them in the team, because you will give them what they need. Sometimes somebody needs a push. Sometimes somebody, as you said, needs a cherish. Sometimes somebody needs a limit. So you need to be always developing. It's quite interesting what we are sharing right now. I'm thinking
Don't be
about
harsh on
if
yourself.
yeah,
Don't be harsh on
shoot it.
yourself. Whether you're starting a project from scratch, leading a team from scratch, or maybe you've been leading team members for years, don't be harsh on yourself. And this is an advice that I give to myself because, again, I started our talk by telling you that you're dealing with people as if you're dealing with weather. And even if we predict weather, like Lebanon has 4 seasons, but again, there are catastrophes around the globe, and then some matters are unpredictable anymore. So some people, their behaviors will be unpredictable even if you studied and even if you did all of these exercises and you read all these theories and you were committed to yourself to become a better person. You will always face someone, you will always have a new challenge to face. So just keep these notions in mind and just keep progressing towards achieving them.
Totally, totally. This is something that I wanted to do, actually, this exercise with you of reflecting about trainings or experiences that we got, and what we did well, maybe without this theoretical knowledge, but we kind of applied it, and what we could have learned and we could have improved. Because for sure, this is a process, okay? Nobody got born and was the best trainer ever, blah, blah. No, we've been learning, we've been taking different skills, learning, developing different, and getting new knowledge from different sides. One day it was from a master you did, and the other day it was from a talk that you had in the restaurant, no? But I remember when we met in Sweden 2019, you had a very particular challenge. I remember most of the people our project were coming from Arab countries. No, we had, I think, Moroccans, which actually I'm still in touch with some of them, inviting them to projects. We had Lebanese, Egyptians, and we had also Germany and Spain, if I'm not wrong. Anybody else in that project? I don't know
Hmm.
if we had some more people.
It was, I think, yes, we were maybe targeting Euro-Mediterranean countries, but we had also members from Germany, yes.
Yes, we had also Germany, and we have Germans, of course. I remember about Victor. The What would you say was your because you were trainer in that project? What would you say it was your biggest challenge, your biggest success, and your biggest mistake? Challenge, success, and mistake.
The first challenge that we face as Erasmus Plus trainers is that we do not own the full process. At least in my case, I wasn't part of the recruitment process. So there are people who applied, there are applications. So again, I start with the first notion. I didn't know who am I going to train until I met them for the first time. And this was the number one challenge because I don't know them. I don't know their profiles. I didn't prepare myself. For example, if I look at Jesus' profile, okay, this guy looks very experienced, so maybe I need to consider him to be my co-trainer in one activity. Oh, Bilal, he's from Germany. He's a Moroccan also. Okay, so definitely he speaks French, so I need maybe to consider him as an interpreter, maybe. So I didn't know these profiles until I met you guys on the first day. So the first challenge is to break the ice, but break it in a practical way. Not only tell me about yourself and your hobbies and what you do. These are superficial conversations. It's trying to break the ice and build connection because without you, I won't be able to do anything. I will become a lecturer at the university, so I will read and present. You will waste your time on your mobiles, you will talk, you will not pay attention, and you will leave, and you will not understand anything from the presentation that I prepared. So this was the first challenge is that, again, getting to know your team members, which was not that much clear to me. Number two, what did I succeed in? As far as I remember, I succeeded in understanding everyone's perspective and role and allocating the right task or the right, let's say, stage moment for every one of them. So if you are a creative person, so maybe I allocated for you or I assigned you a task to prepare the energizers. If you're someone who is into logistics, we were able to assign a task related to cleaning, maybe cooking, because for you, cooking is your passion. If you're someone who is into training, I allowed you to become a co trainer, or maybe I asked you to facilitate an activity. So, whenever you give people importance, this moment we call it the stage moment, like you're standing there and people they or you're having the lights, all the lights on you. People like this because they like to feel that they are valued and they are not only participants but they are also contributors. So
Yeah,
please,
I
please,
like that a
please.
lot from what you're saying. Consider them and your participants team. They are part of
Yes,
your team.
please don't act as if I'm the trainer and I have the know how. Actually, I don't know anything. Sometimes you may deal with people who are more knowledgeable than you and they know more about the project. So you need to acknowledge this. You need to tell them, I want you to be contributors. I want you to be my partners. I don't want to have the all lights, all eyes on me. And this is how you influence them. And this is how you mitigate any risk of any conflict and maybe any participant who at a certain point decide to leave or decide not to pay attention. And we will always have this because the span of attention is like not 20 minutes maybe. So people, they like to move, they like to do something. So you need, again, you mentioned it, you need to have 20 eyes, 20 ears, you need to have 20 version of you present, whether in the meeting room or at the conference room. So, and the last one, maybe a mistake that we did, a mistake that we did. That's an interesting question. You have to tell me.
I remember that I told you back then. I told you,
Mm,
well, I told you as such as an advice, something that I would have changed. That it was, for instance, this is maybe my style. Okay, I understand that if you want to be trainer, you need people also to respect you in a way, no? So everything that you do is something that influence others, no? If I come and I come to the meeting room, no, and I come 20 minutes later, and I come unprepared, and I come tired because yesterday I was partying. This is a message, no, non-verbal communication message to everybody saying, I don't give a damn about this project. I'm not going to put much effort. And since you are the leader, all of them will do it. I'm not saying you did that. You actually were waking up quite early, going for runs. We were in a very nice place on the beach. But for instance, I remember I told you I would have changed my dress code because in our project, for instance, we had people that were also older than us. So I would try to go a bit more. I wouldn't say elegant, but it comes from Spanish. I would say more elegant, but maybe like I saw you most of the times. You are now wearing a jacket, so maybe at that in that project I have been wearing a jacket. That's maybe something I would do. Is a recommendation. Despite
Sure.
that, not like a mistake. It's also a personal choice. Some people decide, no, like some billionaires like Mark Zuckerberg before used to go with a basic T-shirt, and some poor people full in debt they go with suits and expensive cars and expensive watches, and they are
Okay.
full of debt. It's also a
I'm so
personal
happy. I
choice.
have 3 points to mention here. Number one, I'm really happy that you mentioned that it might not be a mistake, it's a personal choice. And this is, again, out of respect for the culture wheel of every one of us. Maybe in my country, wearing this is something formal, in your country, wearing this is not. Number two, elephant
Chapeau.
in the room, my friend. You know that sometimes being a trainer is different than being an Erasmus Plus program coordinator. And by being a trainer, you only stick to the agenda that you have. Sometimes you do not have a say over the discipline of the group, and you count on the program coordinator to do this. And number three, elephant in the room. Not all of Erasmus Plus participants are serious enough to take part of these programs. So we need to be aware also of their different profiles. Some of them they're there to have fun only. Others they are there to learn. So we need also to consider this, and we again it's called non-formal education programs. So if we need to treat them as if they are university students, then they will not find any value in our programs, and they will get easily bored because it will be very formal. Speaking of the attire, that's a very good point that you mentioned. If you remember, the training was all about creativity and social entrepreneurship. So I had not to wear something very formal because it will block any type of creativity. So that's why I had to stick to the theme of the project that has to do with creativity, doing so many activities, sitting next to the beach, going outside. Most of the activities we were dividing them like now group work, please go to the beach. So people they were wearing comfortable clothes, and I have to mirror them, whereby your point or your remark is on point. Definitely as a trainer also you need to give yourself a certain presence, wearing something smart casual maybe or formal, so that definitely you look for them as a source of inspiration, and so that you preserve your aura and your energy. Uh, for me, if sometimes I have to deliver a training uh, in the mid of the sea, I would deliver it wearing the swimming suit. Imagine to which side I might go, to the extreme side,
Totally.
unless I feel that I'm connecting with people and I'm mirroring them.
Totally, totally. Like adaptability to the topic, to the people, to the culture, to the place is something that you need to respect 100%. That's totally a point. I like how you develop it, and it's something I didn't think about. That's why it's good to share it, and maybe somebody who is listening to us right now will also reflect about how to adapt to the project, because this also I'm also reflecting about how in different projects I was wearing. For instance, we implemented this year one about sports. I was more sportive, but in another one that it was more about self-reflection, I was a bit more with a more respectful dress code. So yeah, you need to do that. And there is something also very interesting that you said, that your challenge is a challenge that most of the people have, which is don't know in their participants. But this is something that you can avoid. And I've seen only good trainers when I had a very good quality trainings. Those trainings were maybe part of the recruitment process, let's call it like this, choosing the
Yes,
participants. They were part of it, or they were even having the condition that if you want to hire them as trainers, they need to be able to choose the participants, which is something that I find quite interesting as a condition. And when this did not happen, the results were much were worst. That's
exactly.
totally a point. Very
Don't
interesting,
believe
getting
what
to know
is
your
written in any
participants.
application. I'm very skeptical. I'm very skeptical. If you know the story of Thomas in the Bible, he was very skeptical all time. That so I'm always skeptical because nowadays with ChatGPT, they can fill the application on behalf of you, and you can write poetic sentences, and you can show me that you're very ambitious and you want to spread peace all over the world. So what you mentioned is extremely important to ensure the success of an Erasmus Plus project is to take part of the recruitment, again starting from scratch, involving yourself from scratch in the recruitment, so that you ensure that you have at least impacted or influenced the selection, and you ensured 50% of the success of your project.
Written down, written down. Another thing that you mentioned, and I think is something that is an elephant in the room inside Erasmus Plus, is the quality of the participants. Unfortunately, sometimes the quality is really so bad, and we've been working about it. Like for instance, with another mate I have, Sergio from Motus Europa, we designed a good form that helped us out to really filter the people, because you said it, like there is actually recently there was a meme on the media from an organization that posted how it is to look for participants, and one part was that like they were having fun that some of them just apply using ChatGPT, and it's like, I mean, if I want to get to know you, I need you to tell me who you are. I'm not talking to ChatGPT. I will choose you, not ChatGPT. And this is something that participants don't understand. So it's very, very important if you are doing this recruitment process, also if you are ascending an organization or whatever, to really filter very good the participants and integrate as much as possible who is going to be the facilitator or the trainer. If you have a training, it should be easier, because participants and the target of trainings are people usually more mature, so the quality should be a bit better. But there is something that I've seen in most of trainings, and this is also an elephant in the room, but let's talk about it, is that sometimes they lack participants and they end up including normal participants that are not the target group. And this is something that, as you said, the quality lowers a lot. And this is something that I'm here being a bit critical about Erasmus Plus, but this is something that we organizations should be more careful about and raise our standards, in my opinion. What What do you
Can
think?
I add one more idea? I would also build on your thoughts by assessing their level of commitment and accountability. For so many years, based on my experience with Erasmus Plus project, like you welcome people who may sound very ambitious and very interested in the topic, very active during their stay there, but when the program ends, they disappear. And this is a huge challenge for us to keep the momentum living, to check on them, to see how we can make it better. So imagine that if I didn't have or didn't do an effort, or you didn't do an effort, together we were collaborating for these years, we were staying in touch, we were supporting each other, sometimes only by texting each other. I may run out of ideas, sometimes I may not be in the mood to collaborate. Maybe there are lots of factors that we cannot control, whether risk factors, but we need to consider even the accountability and the accountability level of the participants, who may sound very ambitious and very energetic and active during an Erasmus Plus program, but then after it you create the WhatsApp group, and we sound very ambitious, and then after 10 to 15 days the WhatsApp group is on the mute mode. No one actually answers. So we need to consider also how to balance between their ambition and their energy status within the team or during the event and after it.
Do you think this might be because we actually maybe lacked of putting energy into creating this community and understanding this cultural will, and putting this very much effort at the beginning to make these differences show up, or maybe even force a bit of conflict, because conflict might seem like, oh, but at the end conflict unites people. No, if we go through a crisis all together, we will get more cohesive. So do you connect it, the lack of management might end up into these people not paying attention to the group and not really, and disappearing after the project?
It could be, because I can put myself into your shoes. You're leading a community and you're doing your best. I can see you on WhatsApp. You know me, for example. I don't usually uh, immerse myself in WhatsApp conversation, but I'm one call away whenever you want anything from me. So I can put myself into your shoes. You're doing an amazing job in terms of creating the community, sending us updates, sending us links, articles, running polls, running events. And there are people who are engaging with you, and there are people who are not. And this is really normal. Some people, they like to lead, they like to work hard on themselves. They believe that working hard pays off. Other people, they are more of executors. They prefer to be led, like they wait for Jesus to send them everything and then they can contribute. Other people, they prefer maybe to work alone. So we need to understand again the dynamic of the team. For me, it's really normal, and you will always face this. Even if you were Pope Francis, if you were Elon Musk, if you were any influencer across the globe, and you were asking people, like they were asking people to vote if I have to take the US election. And some people, they don't want to do this. Even if you brought them whatever they want, some people, they wait for a sign, or they prefer to step aside. So we need also to understand this again. Don't blame yourself. Don't put so much pressure on yourself if you're doing the right job. Sometimes you may get married and you will have children. There within your the same family, you will deal differently with every one of your children. So there are different styles. Some may be introvert, some may be extrovert, outgoing, outstanding. They like again to express. Others, they prefer to sit aside. So consider also as part of assessing the risk of any project, the likelihood of the risk to happen and the frequency of it, or the severity of this. I think we don't usually run the risk assessment exercise to any of our project, and we take things for granted, or we consider that it's a regular project. People will come and go. We will apply for another one, and this is how the wheel actually is working.
We should put more care into projects in those terms. I mean, your words are bringing me lots of thoughts, no? Because I'm like, at the end, setting up projects, like when somebody starts setting up a project, usually it's a youth exchange. No, I had I've mapped the story on how Erasmus Plus people end up being Erasmus Plus professionals. Kind of a normal story. Not all of us we did the same story, but usually it's the same story in which somebody start joining projects. They fell in love with this kind of projects, usually youth exchanges. Remember that there are youth exchanges for more than 20 years. And I still get to know organizations that have been running for 15 years. We had actually an interview on the YouTube channel with Diana from APY Armenia. And she told me right now we have like 15 people, staff members, paid, more than 400 volunteers. We are running, we are all over Armenia. We are receiving funds from Europe, from the US. Like they are doing a real impact in Armenia, the unique youth center in Yerevan, the capital. And she told me the founders were people who joined Erasmus Plus projects some 15 years ago. So people at the beginning, they start joining a youth exchange, then eventually end up working with young people somehow, and they start joining training courses, and after training courses they dedicate their lives to more to education or these social causes in different levels, no, more locally, more internationally, more institutionally in universities or in NGOs, or creating their own, and etc. No, I see very much that you kind of fell in love, no, with Erasmus in a youth exchange, and you see this is something I could do. No, you check it out, you look around, you see, okay, I'm going. It's 20 people, like a summer camp. Wow, we had such a great time. You made friends. You did something cool. You were in a different country, practicing language. We know all this feeling. and they start thinking, oh, I can do it. And for sure, a youth exchange, you can do it with basic knowledge, but if you really want to do it well, you need to apply. I mean, you need to at least keep learning about all these different tools to improve the quality and to avoid this kind of mistakes or this kind of outcomes. You might think, hey, why people is not active at all, or they didn't have any internal connection, no, between the people that joined the project after the project. And if it's been your project, you should do some reflection, no? Don't you think so? Like, just look at the mirror and say, hey, I could have done maybe something better for the next one. Maybe these variables, I didn't work on it, maybe I didn't understand them good, no, culturally, as you were saying. So I think that if somebody is listening to us and they are implementing projects, they are getting like lots of thoughts, like lot of food for their brain on how to improve and how to manage better when they are in front of a team or they are facing a new team, and understanding them. Because at the end, yeah, we are saying in Erasmus we had a big. Maybe we can close the episode talking about that. One of the main things of Erasmus is that we are bringing people from different cultures, not just different countries, but different cultures, because sometimes some countries might get aligned, no, Slav countries might get aligned with themselves more than, and the same with Mediterraneans, no, Spanish and Italian might somehow get more aligned than if you put a Polish and a Spanish. Suddenly it's like, hey, or Estonian with a Italian, no. So this challenge of making people from different cultures understand each other and create connections is something that it might be present, and is one of the main goals of Erasmus. So maybe last advice for somebody who is facing a very multicultural and diverse group of people.
Last advice, I recommend to go back to the technical and behavioral competencies of Erasmus Plus programs that were set. If you remember, whenever you get your youth pass, there are a set of competencies that are mentioned there that you can celebrate your achievement. And for every competency, there are a set of whether you're acquiring it, applying it, or mastering it. So level one, level two, level three. So I advise really every youth worker, program coordinator, or organizer to refer to this list of competencies so that you know where to put each competency and whether your project really ensure the completion or the achievement of these competencies, because after all we're working within these projects on developing people, making them feel that they are contributing to the world, supporting them in their professional educational journey so that they become a better version of themselves.
Important words. Yeah, I think is what you said is something very interesting. Right now, for instance, in the private community of Plazers, I am teaching people who want to start creating their own projects how to do it. And one thing that I tell them is like, just go to the sources, no? Like, you have the Erasmus Plus guide saying what a youth exchange is. So if you want to write down a Erasmus Plus project, you need to learn from there. We have, like, I think right now is 8 competencies. You need to include them, no? Like, every time that, I mean, you are asking for funds and you are going to implement Erasmus Plus project that is financed by the European Commission, try to use the knowledge and the content and the sources and information that they provide to help you out, because actually there is lots and lots of free courses, free information, free models that the European Union have developed through the European Commission programs. So yeah, learn about those ones. And yeah, I think it's just closing a bit, using a bit of coaching. That is something that characterizes our friendship. I would say people should be like, if we are youth workers and stuff, we need to be curious and wonder always why. No, wonder anew why this didn't work. Try to open our eyes, our mind, our heart, and understand the group of people that we are working with. And if we see that something is not working, wonder why and try to find out a good solution. I think with that, we can close the episode. Joseph, it's been a real pleasure to have you here discussing. We had this conversation, this knowledge. Sometimes we have them for private, but I think it was very nice to give them away to the world and to let people also learn from our experience, our knowledge. It's very nice that you were here. You are right now calling us from Lebanon. The country is going through also a special situation. We send you all the support. We hope that everything can be sorted out as soon as possible. Thank you very much for making your time to contribute to the Plazers community. I send you a huge, huge, huge hug.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jesus. Thank you for taking our conversation to a different level.
Ma salama, Habibi.